Welcome back to the HGC, and the air is electric right now as we have a fantastic series. Synergy taking on Tricked Esports, and believe it or not, Synergy is up 1-0.
I believe it. That was a great game. Back and forth, and it could have ended up either with Synergy or a Tricked win. We had a very nice push at the bot lane actually by Tricked, but in the end it was Synergy who takes victory in map number 1. But yeah, this is a great series, and if the first game is any indication of what we're going to witness now in the best of 5, then I am already happy because that series is going to be good.
It's going to be a good one. We get to watch Synergy as they continue to evolve, and what are we, 7 weeks now into the HGC,
Yep.
and you look at a team like Synergy in week 1 and now in week 7, and they just look so much more powerful. And the same can be said about Tricked Esports. But let's not wait much longer. Let's go ahead and check out the battleground here. Where are we going for game number 2? Well, it's going to be a fun one. We're going to Brax's Holdout.
Braxis is definitely going to be good. This is, of course, one of the maps where we have still 2 lanes. You can play with the globals here, though, since the map might be a bit smaller and only a 2-lane map, but the walking distance between the 2 lanes is pretty significant. It takes quite some time, so a global still gives you a lot of value, but this is really about who has the better solo laner, who has the better foreman, since you're usually trying to split that way.
And this is a battleground that we've been hyping up a lot of the times for Synergy because of one element. We have Hydra, who loves to play the weird heroes. Chen on this battleground, Rexar to a degree, and most of the time, this battleground is either banned out against Synergy or that hero in particular is banned out. We've had a first ban Rexar before in the past for HGC. That's how terrifying Hydra can be on that character. So now we have the possibility of that happening here.
Yeah, it could definitely happen, and also like they have shown a bit of a different style now with that double support. That's great when you're going into a foreman, for example. So there's a lot of things that they are going to try and show here today, and now having that first victory on map number 1 definitely gives them a little bit of momentum and confidence, I feel.
Yeah, so if you're Tricked Esports and we're going to game number 2, what are you thinking about in the bans? What do you get rid of? Do you continue with the Tassadar train, or do you think maybe you get rid of Lucio?
I would probably still try to get rid of the Tassadar first. Well, in terms of Tricked, of course, they have the choice of heading into a Tassadar if they really want to. We had a couple of teams in the past that don't really like to play with him either way, so Tricked in this case is one of these teams deciding, okay, we don't want to play with him, we don't want to face him here, we want to make sure that he's not going to be part of the equation. For Synergy, it's a little bit different. I would be worried about the globals, I would say, so that would be one of the things that would be on my mind, the Haka in particular. So let's see how they're going to ban this out now.
Is there any merit of potentially just taking out Arthas and just getting rid of him?
I was thinking about that, but the thing is, if you are talking about Tricked, it's not only that they are loving to play the Arthas, they are also like playing a lot of Johanna, so they have a lot of different players that are good on these frontliners, especially, of course, Alex having a pretty wide variety of tanks that he plays there. I don't really think that an Arthas ban in particular benefits you in the setup. There's just other things that are a little bit more impactful.
Totally, and one of the things that are impactful, Gul'dan.
Yeah. Gul'dan
being banned out, one of the linchpins of getting a strong 4-man rotation. You clear out those waves like no other. And we talked about it in the last series, but if you're just now joining us, Horrify is probably one of the most scary heroics in the entire game right now. If you actually get displaced or you get pulled into your opposing team, Gray main follow-up or any major burst damage becomes that much more stronger.
And coming back to your point with Arthas in general, I feel is really a fantastic ban. There's no doubt about it. It's also a great first pick. But I just think that if they are playing now against Tricked, this is something where Synergy is not really too worried about. They seem to currently really favor compositions where they're having a pretty big focus also on auto attackers, and so to say hyper carries that they support with 2 supports. So chunking away at a frontline hero is something that they seem to be very confident
They
with.
excel at that, yeah, that's true. Okay, well, Fallout gets picked up here for Esports. Synergy has in the past ran a massive amount of Dahaka, so Synergy should be moving towards Dahaka now. In fact, I kind of expect it here. With it being Braxis Holdout, Hydra's so great on that hero, they can grab that in the first rotation. Because if you leave it up, Tricked Esport will take it. They have ran Dahaka Fallout in the past.
They should take it if they get the chance. The thing with the Haka Falset is that you can make this rotation happening that Dignitas showed us on the first weekend too. So you simply have your Dehaka boring into the 4-man rotation, turning it into a quick 4 versus 5, and Falstad, who was part of that 4-man, just flies top and secures the experience there after the kill. So that's a really, really tricky thing to deal with. And Synergy should try and take that tool away from Tricked Esports.
They move into Ariel
They
and
don't.
Valo, though. They intend to do a strong bottom lane.
Yeah.
So now Tricked Esports is in a spot where they need to figure out what they want to take here. There is always the threat of Lucio. Now they can ban it out. There is also Dahaka floating around, so they should probably start moving towards that. And we get to see what Tricked Esports wants to get. Do you mind Dahaka Arthas here?
No, I wouldn't really mind it. I really think the one thing that you need to answer for yourself right now is how much you value the globals. And they actually don't want to play that macro game to that extent. So if you look at a team like Team Liquid, if you look at Dignitas, they are very likely in that situation to pick up the Dehaka and just like play exactly that macro game that we've been talking about. Synergy is very team fight oriented. Tricked is also pretty much trying to do the same thing. We saw them with a very team fight heavy composition in game number 1. And right now, having the opportunity to go into Dehaka, they simply said like, no, we're completely fine playing that with the Arthurs Malfurion again. Gnappa loves to play Malf. Alex on the Arthurs is great. They have the lockdown again. They can ban Dehaka if they're worried about it. But at this point, they're just simply saying we don't value the global enough to pick it up here.
Well, Synergy banning out Chromie. Now, we haven't seen much Chromie from Tricked Esport, but Chromie is a very huge threat, in particular against Ario. Get that lockdown. Even Lucio, too. If we have Ario and Lucio going over to Synergy in this matchup, Temporal Loop into a blow-up is very hard to play around for those healers. You have to either use Ages or, of course, the Sound Barrier, which could be a bait at some points in the match. So they just get rid of the Chromie here. Johanna banned out for Tricked Esport.
Another thing with the Chromie is that if you already have Arthurs and Malfurion, that lockdown that we've been talking about, it sets Chromie up for just guaranteed hits.
Yeah,
and that can really hurt you. So that's one of the issues to deal with here. Tricked had now a chance to also ban Dehaka, but with them knowing that Synergy still needs a main tank, they were basically looking, okay, which tanks get the most value on this map, which tanks are we worried about, and they're currently trying to lock down the wave clear to a certain extent. Johanna can be very annoying in the foreman rotation because she's so difficult to kill, especially in the early stages of the game, when she makes good use of the Iron Skin trade. So right now they're trying to just like shut down a bit of that wave clear so that they have an easier foreman to fight, and they're just making sure that, yeah, Johanna in that sense cannot just take the position on the beacon.
Well, we have a new Barak and Zarya picked up. Zarya, so good for this early rotations and being able to poke out. She gets so strong when she takes damage her way. She can help her out with the turrets, and she helps with that Vala problem, that double support, that Zarya being in the mix. We haven't seen much Zarya as of late in the HGC with these double supports being picked up very often, but when it comes to Brax's holdout, Zarya is a hero that you cannot ignore. The explosion zone is great for locking down your opponents when you get to level 10, also controlling the beacon phases as she just brings the shields and gets damage rewarded towards her if your opponents overstep.
Zarya is an interesting hero, I feel, because she seems to go through cycles a lot faster than other heroes, where you have a week where she is more or less first picked or picked very early, sometimes even banned out. And then you have the next week starting, and she's more or less disregarded. A week later, she's all of a sudden in again. So it really seems she's more thinking like, how much do you value that extra shield for yourself? And also, oftentimes, a bit of a, I want to say like a target ban when you know that your opponent likes to play her.
It also kind of, Stitches and Kill, that'll be the final pickup here. So you have the Stitches into Root from Malfurion, into Arthas Root, into potential damage from a Hammering, into a Kael'thas KT Living Bomb.
I'm wondering for a moment who's going to take that top lane right now for Trick, because they have a few options, I feel, with this. We've seen Alex in the past advocating a lot that he feels the Arthas should be the solo laner in this case. You could make an argument for Falstad taking that position. So that's going to be interesting to see. If Arthas takes the solo lane, for example, depending on who he would have to face, then Falstad can every now and then just like fly in, turn this into a 2 versus 1 situation, try and get a kill. That would put potential power in there. But oftentimes we still see Falstad on that single lane. But it depends a bit on what synergy it chooses for their own solo laner here.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the synergy here, because Tricked Esport right now with their composition is flexible. And there's the Rexar.
I like it.
So Synergy has their top lane down here on lock. I would argue that actually put Arthas against that hero. You want to be able to have the wave clear available and then just have the Falstad fly in so you have that gank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I feel like if Falstad is very much alone on that lane, he is going to struggle and going to be pushed back eventually, or at least that should happen. The top lane is very unlikely to win the beacon if there is not gank potential.
Yeah.
So that gank potential would come with Falstad being at the bot lane, that you can fly in, try to just get a good snipe against Rexar. Because if you don't do that, if you just have the one-on-one situation, you're never going to win that beacon. The hero on the other side, or the hero on the side of Tricked, is going to be faced with the decision, do I go and make a play for the beacon, then the waves are going to push against me, or do I just continue to soak the waves and take them down? But then Misha is always going to be on that point, locking it down.
Yeah, Rexar introduces crisis management to that top laner. Having the control is so hard to deal with. And luckily, Tricked Esports having Falstad makes it much easier for them to deal with that. If there's ever a moment where Misha charges in on the Arthas and that's called out and Falstad's rotating in, that's a dead Rexar. So Hydra's going to have to play kind of lights out here and make sure that he's watching out for that global play. The global timings have to be timed between the teammates and make sure they're good to go from there. But I'm excited to see Hydra's Rexar. He's been talking about it forever on Twitter, and we have yet to have a chance for it to be played in an actual match here in the HG since the latest changes from him. So very excited to see him play it.
Yeah, I'm not only excited about that, I think the entire setup is pretty cool. You have the Anubarak there, you have the Zarya, we get to see the Hyper Carry Vala once again. So it's once more one of these drafts where you just look at it and you're just like, okay, this is going to be good.
It's kind of interesting how in the first series of the day we saw no Vala, and now we're getting Vala in our second series. Let's go ahead and get started here. Game number 2, Synergy taking on Tricked Esports, and Synergy is up 1-0. Can they make it 2-0? Let's find out here on Braxis Holdout.
Yeah, Brax is going to be our second map as we are heading straight into the battleground and starting towards the left side of the map. We once more have Tricked with Crosby on Kelthas. We're seeing Knappe on Malfurion, Alex of course on Arthas, Eternal playing the Bird, and Remabola is playing Stitches.
And for Synergy, we're going to have Neon on Vala once again. Power will be on Anubarak, Ice Cream on Zarya, going to have Hydra on Rexar, and Sefka on Ariel. Now, I have to say this correctly, Sir Ice Cream on Zarya. I missed the Sir there, and I got to make sure I get that in.
Yeah, Hydra currently down here at the bot lane, actually, not up at the top. We're playing Misha, who controls her pet Rexar. So, I also love the skin, by the way.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites there. It looks good, too, with the mount. Good synergy. Hydra just does everything right, man. Every time I like a Hydra, I like you, Hydra.
I approve of the mount. It's not the money pick, but I approve it. And yeah, up at the top lane, that's where we have the pressure. Eternal is there together with Alex. The idea for them was actually to be at the top lane against against Rexar. And what you do, you just put a bit of extra pressure with a 2 against Rexar. Ideally, you chunk his hit points down a bit, and then you fly false that down. And so in this case, the Arthas would have had an easier solo lane against Rexar, and Forcer can fly down into the 4-man. That didn't really work out that way because Synergy started to switch things up and instead position the bot lane at the solo lane towards the bot.
Now it's all about wave clear, clearing out the minions, and watching Rimmer. If he gets the hook that he wants, and Nappe can follow it up with a root, Ballstat and KT can burn down a victim if they play around the shield. There's a lot of things that Tricked Esports has to do to get their takedowns. They start their clear as well here on the right. And the bottom lane, already, Arthas will have to start dealing with that pressure as Misha continues to move back and forth. Alex Aproji is actually playing that pretty interesting. He's sitting in between the two of them.
Yeah, Alex is usually doing a really good job on these solo lanes, but another problem that he is going to have to face is that we have, of course, control over the globe that exists on the lanes from Rexar. Rexar has 2 bodies on that lane, so he should always be in a position where he can either send Misha or himself over, grab that globe, and therefore have the extra lane sustain. So overall, this is a pretty rough battle for Arthur. So Trick needs to make sure that they have a very good 4-man up here at the top and that they are able to pressure Synergy with it.
And they do have a strong 4-man that keeps doing the clears here, and they're actually a bit ahead here until that multi-shot comes available at level 4 for Synergy. They're going to have a hard time actually being there. And there's that hook into a root. The Zarya shield comes out, and Neon steps forward to apply damage to Eternal.
It was really well done, very well coordinated. Power of Dreams survives here with barely any hit points left, but he does survive. But the coordination that we just saw from Trick, that's exactly what they need to do. If they get a couple of these hooks and the follow-ups in there, they can definitely make Synergy's life up at the top lane in living hell.
So Ice Cream is going to be hooked here by Rimmer. He's going to hit him. There goes the root follow-up. So Ice Cream is low on health. Sefka there with the assist on the heal. The shields come out. And somehow, some way, 2 hook targets have survived.
Yeah, but barely, and all of them are very low, so they need to fall back. And again, getting hooked there. Power just barely moves back. And down to the bottom of the map, we are now having, of course, that shrine also under the control of Misha. So, job well done. Alex takes over, but they lost 26% on the beacon progress that went over to Synergy. So now we have also another globe ready that they can take, and up to the top lane. The game continues. The hooks are hitting, and they are hitting hard.
Neon, though, turns it around and goes for a kill on Eternal. He vaults forward and applies all 3 auto attacks to Fallstat, and Eternal does fall, which will allow for Synergy to make a play for the beacon on the top. But so far, Alex Aproji is holding his own in the bottom lane.
That dodge on the hook. Neon is always towing the line. This guy is just crazy. He's so aggressive with these plays, and he's really doing work. Sefka is benefiting from it as well because he has a massive amount of hope available to him where he can just heal them up. Synergy is once again coming out of the gate swinging, but it's actually Tricked Esports that's currently ahead when it comes to the beacon progress.
Big hook once again. Neon's able to vault and just barely sidestepping that root. Had that root connected, he would have gotten hit by a fort, and that would have been a death.
Yeah, Neon is just insane. Look at that lead in experience on the other hand. Breaking through the structures here, Synergy is now an entire level ahead of Trick. They went through the wall, down to the bottom of the map. Alex was now able to reclaim the beacon, but it's still a trade. And Synergy just falls back, realizes there's very little to do up to the top, so they grab one of the camps. They still hold on to their own beacon. And down to the bot lane, Alex is fighting the good fight against Rexar. He's actually doing a very solid job against him, but it's still rough.
Yep, he's been holding his own for now. Crosby trying to hold for his life, though, and he gets focused down. Rimmer on the back left is taking damage from Neon. There's a Beetle in front, too, so Neon was able to keep stepping forward because that hook would not have connected.
I am loving this aggression. Synergy is playing such a great game here once again. Hook is hit, and they just don't care. Look at Neon! Every single time he's like, okay, boys, I'm going in.
Yeah, that was an odd mistake from Rimmer going for that hook. Had he maybe hit a carry like Sefka or potentially Neon here on the Vala, they could have gotten the kill, but they grabbed the Nubrak Rosaria and they keep getting pulled underneath the towers. The shields come out and Synergy takes the opportunity to engage.
Yeah, but Rexar falling at the bottom, that's another thing. I love how Synergy, by the way, dove behind that fort. They really didn't care about that. They just moved in, they get their kills, but Alex is still able to work for his team down here. So they get the kill at that bot lane at least, and that allows them to not only hold on to their own beacon, but also start pushing that lane a bit, and Synergy loses out on a bit of experience, which is annoying, but they're so far ahead as is already that I don't feel they care too much.
And that is actually a big kill there in the bottom lane because level 4 we have Animal Husbandry for Rexar, which means every second in his life he gets 2 more health for both Rexar and Misha. So they become very, very tanky eventually. So I believe the maximum is 4k health at some point. But regardless, that kill resets that entire health advantage that Rexar was building.
Yeah, and also, once again, these hooks in the follow-up. So Trick, they are under pressure. They definitely start to lose some ground here, but they are always eager to fight back. And these hooks enable them to make plays like this. But once again, Alex is joining up with the rest of the team. Dodges the stun. Neon is in trouble, though. Gets the shield from Zarya as Eternal is aiming for a kill. But Vala survives, and they make a play for the beacon. They want that Zerg wave.
Hook comes in and does connect to the Nubrak. Falsa did go back home. Can he fly top in time to stop the beacon? If it doesn't get there before 90%, it's going to be over. Yep, they are going to win this beacon phase. So Synergy, with a pretty large lead and set up to push in the bottom lane, can make a play for this fort.
This is so strong what they're doing here. That Zarya combo with the Oriel is fantastic, and the aggression that we see on Vala provides Oriel with constant hope that she can use for these heals. They are really just steamrolling Trick Esports right now. Just look at that momentum they're building up. They're trying to snowball now with that first Zerg wave. Both of the forts are eliminated. It's a 2-level lead heading into level 10.
Falstad is set up at the top lane, so if Trick Esports makes the call, he can rotate down. But with 10 looming here for Synergy, that call should not be made. A hook comes out on Hydra, he collides with the wall, but with both of these turret walls being grabbed, here is level 10. Synergy moving in for the aggressive play. We're going to have a Nubrak diving in. Power hits Nape.
Yeah, the Zarya ult doesn't really do too much, but they get the kill against Kel'Thas. It's a double kill as Malfurion falls. That is going to be a 7-minute keep. Synergy, I don't know what these guys had for breakfast, but it was definitely doing work.
I'm going to say oatmeal with blueberries, the breakfast of champions. Let's see if we're going to keep out the pressure going on for this core, as it could be focused down. If they get one more kill, a Therno in particular, they can go for the win. They do take out Alex Saproji. Power is taking damage, though, from those living bombs. Misha's in the front line. They're attacking the core. Neon is shelling away. There's Guardians here. It's 7 minutes and 30 seconds. 12 seconds for Artichoke, and Synergy is looking for maybe some kills.
Synergy is looking to end the game. They're going in right now. That core is down to 60%. The game is 7 minutes and 30 seconds old. They don't care. They go for stitches. Rema is about to fall. Eternal is dead. It's a triple kill. Zarya falls, but who cares? They're winning it, Trick.
It's a quad with the core. 0%. Tricked Esports will fall victim to Synergy. Synergy going up 2-0.
What just happened?
Synergy, they brought out the aggression, and this is kind of a weird thing, because we talked about them, we're like, all right, sometimes you guys need to play safer, right? Because when you make the aggressive plays, you just throw the video game. But right now, they're on fire, so they just ran fully with it. They won, Caldor. They're up 2-0 over Tricked Esport.
There was 7 minutes and 48 seconds. Synergy just went in and slapped them around.
I blame Zarya. OP. The shields, too strong, allowing to stay alive forever. The advantage of level 10, too. They did have a 2.5 lead over their opponent, pushing into that area. Caldor coughing, man. He's freaking out over here. He can't believe it, dude.
They just bodied them.
Yeah. And if you're Tricked Esport and you're getting ready for game number 3, you have to seriously consider going to a standard battleground here, because Synergy right now is just running anywhere they can.
Think about how many hooks we saw that completely isolated a target, a good target. They locked them down with everything they had. There comes the stun, the root comes after that, the damage from everywhere, and they just don't have enough to kill it because that Zarya's there with the shields, the heals are ready, and Vala jumps so deep, pressuring the damage dealers. Unbelievable performance by Synergy. These kids are mad. They are really angry.
Can they close it out with a 3-0 Synergy over Tricked Esports? We're going to find out after this commercial break. We'll be right back.